Hello and welcome to the Berkcast, the How to Train Your Dragon podcast. I'm your host HC, and with me are.
Wolf.
And Tauriel.
So we're here after speculations, thoughts, trailers, casting choices, and whatever else was in between, alongside a lot of skepticism. The How to Train Your Dragon live action remake has come out. At the time of this recording, it technically came out yesterday in the US, but a few countries around the world got to see it a bit earlier. So, as part of our job, we're here to cover it. Now, before we begin, I think since this is a remake of a movie that we all love, I think that covering spoilers is kind of pointless. But with that said, I decided let's just answer three questions right here, right now, very quickly, and then we'll just have an all out spoiler filled discussion about this.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, the three questions I have for you: did you think it was a good movie? Do you think it lives up to the original? And would you recommend it to How to Train Your Dragon fans? Because let's be honest, they are the people who are probably listening to this. So, Toriel, quick answers. What do you think?
As a standalone film and with no comparison to the original. So if someone hasn't seen the original and this is the first How to Train Your Dragon they see, yes, I do think it's a good film on its own. I would also recommend it to actually have recommended it to other How to Train Your Dragon fans because it is
So,
well
is it a
made.
good movie? You would say yes.
Yes. And
Now,
I
sticking up to the original.
Uh, with one exception, yes, it does live up to the original. I've actually have a hot take uh
So we'll
from
get
what
there
I've seen.
later. We'll get there
It's not
later.
spoilers. It's not
I don't.
spoilers.
It
It's
doesn't
just
matter. We'll get there later because I want to give
oh
people
sure.
the gist.
Yeah, we're getting
So
through
Yeah.
this part quick.
So
Then we'll get into spoilers.
with one exception, I do think it does live up to the original. I'll get into the exception later.
so
But
overall, you would recommend it to fans. You said.
yes, I
Okay.
have I have already recommended it
Okay,
to
but
fans.
to the people who don't know you outside of this, Wolf, your turn.
Ooh, do I think it was a good movie? I think it was fine. I'm not gonna be. Yeah, I would say it was fine. Do I think it compares to the original? I'm going to say no on this one.
And would you recommend it to fans?
Um. Ooh. Hmm. I would say yes, with the caveat that you know what you're getting. Don't go into it with super high hopes. Just go into it expecting a fine enough time.
So for me, do I think it's a good movie on its own? Yeah, I think it's a well-made movie. Does it compare to the original? No, sir, it does not. Do I recommend it to fans? Honestly, I think it's one of those cases where the trailer did a perfect job telling you what you're gonna get. So if the trailers and pre-release material didn't impress you, don't bother. You're not going to like this. But if you liked what you saw in the trailers and all that stuff, you might have a good time overall. So this was the quick thoughts on the movie. Do with it as you will. If you want to go, if we convince you to go check it out, this is your time to close the video. Go check it out. If you want to wait until it's on streaming, we'll still wait for you because videos are pausable. But otherwise, if you've seen the movie or you don't care, we are starting to dive deep into this in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so spoilers from this point out. If you're here, that means you don't care about spoilers for this thing or you've seen the movie. So I'm kind of curious, Toriel, what was the one thing that you were shaky about?
The fact that they removed the not so fireproof on the inside scene.
Oh, that's the worst part about this thing. You know what? We're starting with the worst. Let's do this. Talk about the worst kind of a mission. You know something? I told this to a few friends off mic. If this were a Disney live action remake, I would have said removing this scene is proof that the director didn't get the original vision. But this is made by the writer director of the original. There's no fucking excuse to why this is gone.
You know,
Yeah,
you want to know something
it's an
crazy?
odd choice to remove. Yeah. Go ahead.
They filmed it. They
They
actually
actually
filmed
filmed.
it.
Dean, what is wrong with you?
So that means we'll probably get it on either an
Yeah,
extended cut Blu-ray or just
he
a
said
deleted
it's on
scenes
the
Blu-ray.
DVD.
Yeah,
Such
it's
a
probably a deleted scene. So
why?
such an odd choice because I also told this to a few friends afterwards. When Hiccup goes, it says in the climax, "Let's see if this works." It's like, what works? What is your plan here?
It's an odd choice to remove. I would say ignoring How to Train Your Dragon for a second, ignoring the fact that How to Train Your Dragon doesn't exist. I've never seen it before.
Yeah,
With that in mind, it doesn't hurt the film that it's gone, but knowing that How to Train Your Dragon is a thing, and having seen the animated version and everything, right? It's a weird choice to remove because I do think it is, if not an integral part, I do think it's a part of Hiccup's character. It shows you a part of Hiccup's character and how he learns and how he thinks about things and how he takes stuff in, right? And then it just gives you that little tidbit of knowledge and information as to how Hiccup's going to beat the Red Death, right? So it's just such a strange thing to remove because it doesn't feel like it would have taken up all that much more time to add.
Exactly.
especially if it's filmed already.
Apparently, the only reason it was removed is time. Or at least that's what Dean said.
Yeah, but
That's kind of bullshit, though. And not to disrespect the guy, even say what you will about his decision to make this movie in the first place, but I know they got too cat happy about this. I don't accept that. Sorry.
I I don't know because he didn't say he's the one who chose it, but it could have been the
He's the
studio.
director.
I know,
He
but he's not the final say, as you might
No,
think, because
he
this is just
is. He quite clearly said that the only reason he took it is if they give him full creative control, and he is the writer director. I'm sorry, that's on him in this case.
a lot of the stuff in the film is on him. I'll get to that, but
I know
this
it's for time. Saying you
because it
removed it
was
for
filmed.
time, it's interesting because the original film was 98 minutes long. This film is
Yeah.
125 minutes long. Let's say that scene is 5 minutes long. I don't think it is, but
Not even. It's like what? It's maybe 2 minutes.
but like going on the playing it a little bit safe and saying it's 5 minutes long. You're at 130 minutes. I don't disagree that time might be the issue because I did start to feel like at the end of this film, it's like, I feel like I've been here a little bit too long.
Then I tell you what, I can tell you a bunch of other places where where they could have just cut it. But and also funny that you mention it because every time I watch the original, when we get to the point where they find the Red Dead's nest for the first time, like Hiccup and Astrid find it on Toothless, every time I watch the original, I go, "Ah, we're here already." Here, when I got to this part, I'm like, "We're only here." That was an experience.
Hmm, fair enough.
So if he says it's full time, then I'm sorry. I don't agree with that decision. I don't want to disrespect the guy because he did give us the original trilogy, but I don't see it. I apologize, Dean.
It's definitely a weird one, very much so.
It's I would even say this is the one part of the movie that I absolutely dislike because this is not changing something from the original or cutting something that no, this is a Chekhov's gun, and it's also also important for Hiccup's character with the everything we know about you guys is wrong. It's a pivotal moment in the story.
Fair.
That's
Um,
exactly why I said this is the
I,
only reason it doesn't live up to the original.
I
It's
will
one
say
scene, but it's such an
it's a
important
crucial
scene,
scene.
though. Yeah.
But speaking
There's a
of,
lot of
I
stuff
just
that
have a funny
was
story. Funny story about that part though. Because if you know me, you know that I absolutely love the test drive scene from the first movie. It's my favorite scene in the franchise. It's one of my favorite scenes in movie history in general. And so I was like, please get that part right. Please get that part right. And we'll probably talk about it more when we get to the flying scenes, but I think they did test drive really well. There are some there are some really tiny omissions here and there, but overall I felt that scene was done justice. I was actually getting happy watching this movie. I was having, yes, they did my favorite scene well, and then it's like a giant hand came out of the screen and slapped me back to reality when boom, the other scene that's important is suddenly gone. We just got to Hiccup in the shed. That was wow.
I honestly thought I missed something. I thought the film glitched in the cinema.
Can you imagine?
I genuinely thought they skipped accidentally a scene, and I was like, wait, what?
Okay, so I guess so
It
we got
took
that
me
part out of the way first.
Yeah,
What
it took me 10 minutes to realize no, they purposefully skipped over that scene. I thought I missed it. It's not a blink and you miss it, and I thought I blinked and I missed it, you
yeah,
know?
even I think either you blink for a really long time or it wasn't there. So
Yeah, but
no,
you know,
it's
you know what? Most of the stuff that was removed, I actually think it was a good idea to remove it.
there
Not
was
because it
some.
wasn't working in the original, hold on. Not because it wasn't working in the original, but because of how this film was made. And I can give you an example if you want. So, one other thing that was removed was Hiccup's impersonation of Stowink. This is a talking fish bone,
I this
but
is a, you see, I just want to say quickly because a friend complained to me about that. This is a line that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of sad it's gone, but it's not the end of the world.
yeah, but
Yeah.
also I don't think Mason could do it and do it well. Comedy, impersonation comedy is rather difficult, and he's young, and I can totally understand why they removed it. I am not mad in the slightest, even though I missed it. I can understand why it would be removed.
Speaking of stuff that was removed, I kind of want to hear to ask your guys' take on something because we have the scene where Hiccup first encounters Toothless in the woods, and he is about to kill him, but then he realizes he can do it, so he lets him go. I I found it really interesting that most of Hiccup's dialogue, if not all of it from the original, is completely gone in that scene. And to some extent, I actually prefer that because one of the strong suits of this trilogy was the show don't tell. So I like that they just let Mason's acting, and he's also acting with nothing because Toothless isn't really there. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a really smart decision to just let the action speak because that's what Forbidden Friendship is gonna be. And then they just add a bunch of other extra dialogue to Forbidden Friendship, which doesn't kill anything. It doesn't kill anything, but it's also odd that you would take dialogue away from one scene and just put it in another. It's inconsistent. And speaking of Forbidden Friendship, who the fuck edited this movie? The editing is atrocious in this.
Yeah, I was gonna speak blah, blah, blah. I was gonna speak a bit about that. The editing in this film did not feel great at times. I'm gonna be real. I like even the audio design at times and the audio editing didn't feel great either
Yeah.
because I could barely hear Fish Legs in the actor who was playing him. in certain scenes. Like it's just like, what did you say? Did he say something? I can't hear him at all. And I'm in a
Thank God for
theater.
subtitles. Woo!
They
I
didn't have
thought that
subtitles
was
on when I watched it, so like
Yeah,
I had
I know,
no clue what he said.
no, but keep in mind that probably what Tauriel saw and what I saw, we have subtitles because
yeah.
localized
Fair,
titles.
fair, fair.
So, so for once, it was useful.
It was not useful for me,
In which
unfortunately.
case,
Go ahead.
if that's the case, then I had an even worse experience because the cinema room in which I already was in that exact room for Thunderbolts, and the sound was very, very quiet for some reason compared to other cinema rooms in the same cinema. And then for How to Train Your Dragon, I could barely hear it, and I thought, oh no, it's the same room. Oh, fuck it. But if you say that's actually for everyone, that made my experience even worse. What the fuck?
I don't want to speak
How
for
can I?
everyone, right? But like at the very least for Fish Legs, when I watched the film, he was way too quiet at times. Like
I
I could
it,
not
Not
hear
not
him.
just
even.
with fish legs. It just felt again there are moments where it's like I know, and it's something that movies do, right? I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, but it feels like whenever a character speaks, you sometimes when it's a dialogue between two characters, the character that speaks isn't on screen. And sometimes you do that. I get why, but it feels like this is all the time in this movie. And there are just some cuts where, like again, Forbidden Friendship, for example, has some really cuts down seconds which wouldn't have made that much of a difference, and it ruins the pace of the scene down to, because I remember watching it, it's like you got the beats there, you got the feelings right, you even fixed the thing from the trailer that Toothless's little hesitation is there in the with the hand thing, but the it felt rushed, it
See,
felt
you
like we
noticed
are
that
cutting
too.
out.
Yeah, because I had also it's funny that I say like this film did feel a bit long when I'm also getting ready to say there are a lot of scenes that it felt like, that felt kind of quick.
Yeah.
Forbidden Friendship felt this way. The flight scene felt a little bit like this to me, where, that's kind of quick.
Depends which one. I think Test Drive for the most part got away unscathed. For the most part.
Mm. But there were definitely quite a few scenes that felt way too quick, and then there were also some scenes to me that felt like they were just.
Actually, Romantic Flight. Romantic Flight is
Mm.
like neutered in this version.
Well, there were also some scenes to me that felt like they were just a little too zoomed in, if that
Yeah,
makes
that
sense. Like
I
looking
get
at
you.
Test Flight, that felt at times like, Jesus, can we pull the camera back a bit? Like, I don't want to be right up Hiccup's ass. I'm sorry. Or like in Tooth when Stoic is fighting the monstrous nightmare in the first bit of the movie. It just like, did he hit him?
Yeah,
I
that
can't
part.
see. I don't know. It's too
Yeah,
zoomed in.
that part did look really off. I agree with you.
And also something you
I
kind
think
of
that's
lose.
because
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's because they've used IMAX cameras, and this is also Dean's first live action film. So he might not have realized because he was using the IMAX cameras that normal people like us wouldn't get to see the whole scene like that. You know?
You could be right. It's definitely
Because
possible.
I could tell a lot during the film that this is the director's first live action.
Yeah, definitely.
He's done stuff in
And
live action, but it's been small stuff.
But and also, I think I'm not sure. Maybe I'm confusing him with Chris Sanders, but didn't he do mostly documentaries in live action?
I believe so, but it's again, it's like, yeah, small documentary things. I
Because
believe
also,
that's
let
what
me
it
tell
comes to.
you, doing a documentary and filming a narrative focused film, two different things. Though it's
Mm.
two different mediums. You need a different kind of skill set.
oh, did you guys know that Chris Sanders was also a producer on the film?
Yeah, which to be honest, he was on the two sequels, so but it could also just be, hey, can we put your name on there? Yes, cool, thank you.
I don't know. I thought it's nice of them to do that because they brought John Powell back. So let's bring the whole
But
gang back together if we're
that's
doing it.
that's something though that I can't really tell you if him being the an executive producer has any impact on the movie, or it could have just been, hey, can we just put your name on it? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no telling. But I thought just
So
it was nice that they at least had his name there.
yeah, but speaking of stuff that felt a bit off, did anyone feel like there was there wasn't enough Toothless in this movie?
Mm, Not exactly, but I think I know what you mean by that. Um, I think well, this is because it's a live action and not an animation, so Toothless didn't feel as expressive as he did in the
No,
animation.
the expressions didn't really bother me. For the most part, actually, I think in terms of putting Toothless there, obviously he's not there, but it seems like Mason and manages to believe he is there because the interaction between them is good enough. In fact, I'll just jump ahead and say it. I think Mason Thames was a great hiccup in this movie, but more on that later.
Yeah.
But I think Toothless himself, the design, while it's still I still think it looks a bit off that it's too cartoony for the real. He looks like Toothless. The detail on him looks great, and I also like that they added a lot of weight to him in his movement there because in
Yeah,
the
because he's a big boy.
yeah, but you see in the animated movies, they really show that he's quick, he's fast, and that's cool. But I also think it gave him a different dimension when they actually gave him weight, like when he pushes Hiccup to the rock, or then in doing the flight scenes, the weight actually managed to give this a
Mhm.
different feeling from the original, even if it is shot for shot. Something it felt like a different dimension was added. So I like how they did Toothless and the flights, but maybe it's because they added a lot more of the Vikings just talking and doing stuff that it felt like Toothless was off screen too much.
I mean, I can
I
understand
didn't feel that
why,
way.
right? But yeah, I agree with Toriel. I didn't
Yeah.
feel that way too much.
And again,
I just
speaking of
didn't
weird
feel
cuts,
he was as expressive, but that's it. That's
speaking of that, another weird cut when Hiccup tries the very first tail on him, they cut down the flight so much, and it's not that. And again, in the original, it's not that long of a flight, and it doesn't even show that Toothless purposefully throws Hiccup away, which is what closes the tail. So it's just like, hey, we flew for a bit, bam, we crashed.
I mean, it gives you an. I'll disagree with that one. That's a place where I'm fine if they cut that because it gives you just enough for that one to say, okay, he threw Hiccup, and he's no longer able to fly because Hiccup was holding up, and like I have enough information there that I'm fine with them cutting in that spot. Again, cutting stuff like the oh, you're not so fireproof on the inside, stuff like that. That's a cut that I'm less fine with and is more weird because I think that's a little bit more integral to the film, even if it's not the most integral thing. But something like this, I'm okay with. I didn't mind it as much, and I felt like I had just enough of the scene and just enough information to say to put two and two together, right?
Fair enough.
yeah. I'm
Two
with
quick
Wolf on
things
that
I want
one.
to. Fair enough. Probably
Mm.
just me.
No,
Two
no,
quick
fair.
things I want to ask you guys about Toothless. For one, in Forbidden Friendship, after Hiccup throws the dagger away, they removed that cute sitting that he does. I am not sure
You
how I feel about that. On the one hand, I miss it, but on the other hand, I guess they were trying to make this a bit more serious. So maybe that's why? What do you think? I'm curious.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. That there's like, huh, that felt a little bit off. And yeah, like there's a way Toothless sits down and it's the way he uses his tail and everything. There's like a little bit more to that animation that they didn't have in this film that they do in the animated version. It's not much more, but it's a slight bit more. But
I must have missed that
I mean,
'cause
fair enough.
I
It's
don't
very much
remember
a blink and you
that.
miss it thing, very much,
Yeah,
because it's
this is a
quick.
blink at you missed it.
It's
But
one of those things
uh,
that
I
I'm
blinked.
pretty sure HC only catches it because he's seen the animated version of this film so many fucking
how
times.
many times have we seen that fucking movie? We started a podcast about it. Don't just put this on me.
What? No.
Seen it a lot. It's just that there was so much to take in. I didn't notice every single
That's
millisecond
fair.
that they
Which is fair.
changed,
That's
you
fair.
know?
That's very
I
fair.
noticed, for example, that when Hiccup threw the dagger, he didn't, when it fell, it didn't fall normally. It implanted into the ground and then he kicked it, which I don't know why, but I thought that was better. I couldn't tell you why. I just like that more than in the original, that small,
That's fair.
very small detail.
Again, that's one of those things that you can either take or leave. I get you.
Yeah. So
Um,
I
But
I
speaking
can
to oh,
see the small
yeah.
details.
So,
It's just I didn't.
so the other thing I
fair.
want to ask you, which is
Oh,
quick, there's the montage where Hiccup is like trying to figure out flying on Toothless and also just learns them a bit more. And in the original, there's the point where it just cuts to him petting Toothless around and then finding like the sweet spot that causes him to fall asleep. In this one, I actually prefer that where we see Hiccup arriving and Toothless jumps up at him, kind of like, "Hey, I'm happy to see you, buddy." And then when Hiccup plays around with him, Toothless actually shakes his hind leg like a dog would. I thought it was a cute touch. That was something that I'm like, okay, it adds. It doesn't really add anything. It does. I'm not sure if I would cut anything for it, but I like this one. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like the whole sequence. I think it was "See You Tomorrow." The sequence was that the name?
I think was.
With
Oh, by
Omission,
the
yeah.
way, another weird omission where the. I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're acting weird. Well, weirder. I told friends that this was cut, and they're like, "But it's a funny scene," and I'm like, "I get why." It's still
Yeah,
odd.
there was plenty of stuff to replace it with. I didn't even realize it was cut until much later after I saw the
There's
film.
definitely I
But
think oh go ahead.
if we're talking about that scene, the montage of Hiccup and Toothless, I do prefer this one to the animated version. I couldn't exactly tell you why because it's in the brain. I cannot tell, oh, the color gradient is different, or oh, Toothless moved his leg a bit different. I don't pick on the stuff. It's just that I like this one much more.
Mhm.
And one detail that I liked the change, but it might not be a popular opinion. I like that they replaced the dragon nip with dandelions because
That's something. That's again for me. It's a take it or leave it. I don't care.
in the original dragon nip was never explained until the shows.
Yeah.
So what's that grass? Is it just regular grass? Wouldn't that make the whole island, dragon calming
Mhm.
stuff? But
I'll
using the dandelions and Hiccup weaponizing the dandelion seeds instead of just rubbing it on the dragon's on the Grunkle snout, I thought that was a better choice for the film. Again, if we're talking about the expanded universe, the dragon nip is explained in the shows, but for the
Who
standalone
knows if
film,
they're even going? Also, because you said expand, who knows if they're ever going to bring up Dragon Nip in the Dragon in the future? I
yeah,
doubt it.
because Dragon Nip wasn't in the sequels.
Yeah, that's
It
what I
wasn't in
mean.
2, it wasn't in 3, so there's no I'm glad they removed it.
it's definitely one of those things where you can tell like Dean like created it or used it and was like, I don't really like that anymore, and then just never went back to it. I will say personally, I disagree with the removal. I like, and I disagree with him not using it in the animated sequels either. But I like little weird world building ticks like that personally. I enjoy random things like
Sure.
that where they lead to nothing, they are nothing, and you figure it out. You're the audience. Fill in what you
I
want, right?
I
I
think
like
to me,
that,
it's
but I'm like
like I said to
HC
me,
as well. I'm not hurt about it. It's not gonna ruin the film for me over it, right? It's just one of those things of like, I'm sad to see it gone, but oh, I get it. Oh well.
So
I
let me
do
think. If there's
want to go back
oh,
briefly. You
yes.
speaking about how you weren't sure how you felt about Toothless' little weird sit. Yeah,
Mm.
I'm kind of on the fence about that too, and I'm also kind of on the fence about. Again, it feels like we're kind of going a little bit back to the Toothless is not as much of a weird wild animal, right? That the second and third film had a lot of problems with, where they've made him more pet like, way too pet like, in my opinion. It feels like we're already doing that here, and there's a lot of weird quirks that didn't make him feel like this weird animal that
Hmm.
this film seems to have that problem too. So if you're a How to Train Your Dragon fan and you didn't like the second and third films for that, you're probably not going to like this one as much for that one. For that here as well. I don't think it's egregious, but like HC mentioned the scratching scene where he finds that sweet spot, it makes him feel a bit, because again, right, like the way it happened in the animated films was him just scratching him all around, and all of a sudden he just falls to the ground, like out cold, almost, right?
Mhm.
It's one of those things of that's kind of the way it is here, but it also kind of makes him seem a bit more dog like and a little bit more pet like again in the way he acts towards it. I don't know. It's definitely one of those things of I think you're gonna have to watch it and see how you feel about it. I'm of two minds. I don't think it's terrible, but I'm kind of with it, if that makes sense.
So you know what we talked about Toothless up until now. Let's. What do we think about Mason Thames as Hiccup? I think he was a great choice. I think he did great.
I think
I
he
think
filled in.
so too.
Yeah, I think he filled in for the role well. He
I was on the
definitely.
fence
Oh, good.
while watching the trailers, and this is something I wanted to bring up because the trailers chose weird takes to show. For example, the nose touching scene,
Welcome
it
to How
was
to Train
so
Your Dragon.
cringe. It was so cringe in the teaser, and then I saw the film, and Mason actually acted his heart out in that scene. And I'm like, why didn't you use that take for the trailer? Why?
Marketers do weird shit
How to Train Your
It
sometimes.
Dragon and bad trailers, though.
isn't
That's like hand in hand.
isn't it in your interest to make the trailers look good, to make people come to see your film?
Well, they sometimes they fuck up, but I will say
Again,
also consider, and I have to say, considering he has nothing to interact with at the flying scenes, especially when in test drive when he falls off Toothless, you can actually feel that. Obviously, the thing is not there, but he
It
gives.
was there. For the flight sequences, they used the puppet sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I know that they obviously use something so that he could sit on it, so you could buy.
No,
I get it.
it was a toothless head and stuff.
But what I mean is the creature itself is not there.
Oh yeah.
They use the obviously they use the reference to know where it is. I completely get that. But the point is everything he's reacting to is in his imagination. That's my point. And he sold that well, like the feeling of when he gets detached and then he needs to get back up on him. It was great, and also there are also just those awkward moments which are pure hiccup, like when he does the okay, are we done? Because I need to. Yeah, see you later. Like
Wanted to say, I'm sorry, Jay. I am so sorry. I love you as Hiccup. However, you did not sell the teenage awkwardness the same way that Mason did.
No, that's the thing. I think Jay, probably just because of the voice too, but because Mason Thames has more of a quote unquote regular voice. But I think Jay's still my hiccup, because when I think hiccup, that's what I go to. But
mm,
Mason Thames did a great job being the live action hiccup. He's definitely living up to
There
the
was
name.
there was one scene when he and Nico were in the arena fighting the Grunkle, and Astrid says, "Let me be Top Slayer" or something, and Hiccup says, "Yeah, Top Slay away," and then they both look at each other awkwardly. That was perfect.
Yeah.
That exchange was the perfect teenage awkwardness I've ever seen in a film. I'm sorry, Jay.
No,
Again,
that's fair.
you're he's a great Hiccup.
Oh no,
So
agreed.
he's Hiccup, right? He's iconic, but he wasn't as awkward as the script was trying Hiccup to. No, the script was trying to make Hiccup. Sorry.
No,
I a
you're
bit
fine.
disagree, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, I definitely don't think all of that's Jay's fault. I do think some of that comes down to the animator's fault as well. And again, like it's always going to be hard to nail down teenage awkwardness in animation unless you like. There's been some animated films that I think have done it and have nailed it. I don't think How to Train Your Dragon did it as well, simply because again, like you're adults animating a younger preteen slash teenager. It's always going to be like there's little quirks and things that you're going to mess up on, and think about it
Yeah,
from an adult perspective and not a younger kid perspective and how they would move and little things like that. So I don't think it's fully Jay's fault, but I do agree that is
I'm
something I
not
think
saying
this
it's a
film.
bad thing for
Oh no.
Jay. Hold on.
No, if you're
I
fair, I get you. Like what I'm just
yeah.
clarifying in that I do agree. There's little touches like that you can get in live action because you have a much younger person, just fully, playing this character, and they can pull that off in ways that the animation and the voice acting may not pick up on as well in some scenes. Which is fair. I get
This
that.
is Yeah, this is one of my biggest the biggest things I liked about the live action is that it knows it's a live action and it does things that the animation couldn't do because of the medium. And I'm glad they took the uh not opportunity because the studio forced them to do it, but you know what I mean.
I agree.
It's
I,
still an opportunity to some degree.
It
they
yeah,
made good
it's
use of
not
it.
just Yeah, it's not just the acting. One thing I noticed throughout the entire film is that the characters and the dragons and stuff interacted more with the environment than in the animation. And it felt more like a real world, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So, for
I
example, in the arena when Hiccup is running away from the monstrous nightmare. In the live action, after the door is blocked, he tries to climb out through the roof, if you can call it a roof.
yeah,
And it
it's
was
not
at that point when I realized, hey, why didn't Hiccup try that in the animation? I didn't realize for 12 years that I've been a fan of the films, I didn't realize that was an option. I didn't think, why didn't he do that?
I
And
guess I think maybe because if I remember how it's both things are constructed, and on top of my head, I don't think there was really any place for him to actually climb, but that's no here nor there.
well, there were the Vikings jumping down after that, so they could have, helped him more.
I guess, but I will
The
say
way it happened
since you
here.
brought up this real quick, I really liked this scene with the essentially Hook Fang, and when Toothless comes to save Hiccup, this is one of those points that I think was done super well in this remake. Not to say it's that it's better than the original or that the original is better. It's just this is a really well made reconstruction of that scene. I thought this was one of the best scenes in the remake, personally.
Me too. And especially immediately after Toothless jumps in, the monstrous nightmare tries to fly out, and then Toothless drags him down. I thought that was very cool. And
Yeah.
again, a part of the interacting with the environment that wasn't as possible in the animation, because you
So
see the dragon pushing against the chains in the roof. I don't know what to call that. Is it a roof?
I
The
guess you can
chains.
call it. Yeah, you can call it a roof. Whatever, call it a
Roof
roof.
is fine,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, and the scorch marks that stayed there in the animation. Again, I'm not saying it's better than the animation. I'm just saying that animation has limitations. And when fire happens in the animation, you don't see the scorch marks because the fire is a different object than the floor. But in the live action, at least I'm assuming they used fire to give the arena the burnt look, you know? What I'm
I
referring
need to, whenever it's out on Blu-ray, that's something that I'll probably have to look up for it. Like, I
I
actually
saw
go over it.
yeah, I saw some of the behind the scenes and I saw that they used actual fire for a lot of the action scenes that involved fire because, dragons. I did not see any of the behind the scenes from that Monstrous Nightmare scene, so I don't know if they used the exact uh technique there. So I'm just assuming, but if they did, hats off. Job well done.
And that's another thing. I was sure that they were gonna green screen a lot of this, but a lot of this was practical, which I give them immense credit for.
Yeah.
If I'm
Agreed.
not mistaken, only the flying scenes are green screen. All the forest, the
I'll
cove,
need
the arena, the
this is
houses.
something this is something that I'll have to watch a B-roll in order to tell you for certain, because I'm pretty sure I saw a behind the scenes of the cove where there is blue screen there. So mm, I'm not entirely sure. I'll look it up later and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, because I saw the actual arena. I was there. I went to Belfast just to see the arena. And it was fucking huge. It's as big as you see it in the film. And the places above where the Vikings are watching Hiccup from, those were actual places where real people stayed. They didn't have that weird thing that blockbusters do nowadays where they CGI background people. They didn't
Yeah,
do that. All
mhm.
the humans in the film in that scene were actual humans.
That I guess that depends on the production, but yeah, I get what you. So
Yeah.
anyway, we were talking. Anything else to say about Mason Thames as Hiccup? Because I think we started to sway away from that.
No, he did quite well. I think he was a very good hiccup. He again, like Jay's definitely a hard act to follow, and I think he did quite well with it.
And I will also
My
say, hats
my
off
only
to
thing. Oh,
yeah.
yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
you go first.
I just want to say hats off to Gerard Butler, who I think obviously he has the voice, but I think he also pulled it off really well in live action. And comparing it to another animated movie I really made a remake and recasted the father, he actually seems like he wants to be there, and he sounds still as good as he did in the original, which obviously it's been less time between that and the Lion King, but yeah, it felt like Stuek. I was surprised that it felt like maybe the beard might be a bit ridiculous here and there, but he did super well. I enjoyed his
I mean,
performances.
it's Gerard Butler. What do you expect?
I mean, there
I
was one
mean,
scene I found
Have
a
you
little.
seen?
James
There's
Earl,
two.
no, but James Earl Jones is also a fantastic actor, and yet he sounded like he's about to fall asleep in the Lion King remake, so it's not really an excuse.
Have you
There were
seen Gods of Egypt by any chance?
I think I did, and I am sad to say that I hated that movie.
Yeah, so that was a horrible film, and Gerard still acted his heart out in
Yeah, no,
that thing.
and again,
Everyone
I'm not.
else, everyone else in that film, not in How to Train a Dragon, in Gods of Egypt, everyone else just phoned in their takes and stuff, and Gerard was there. He was standing out, and not in a good way. That he was the only guy who actually cared about his takes.
mm,
Okay,
So
listen.
you know,
What I'm saying though is that there is a difference though when you voice a character, play it on camera. So I want to
of
commend
course.
them for doing it super well in both ways.
yeah.
That's I would have to I hats off to him.
He did really well, I thought. Like he definitely, again, he very much is stoic. There was just two scenes that I thought were a little funny, and they don't take away from anything. I just think it's funny. And the first one is him throwing the shield instead of throwing the whole wagon. I thought that was funny. But I think they did good enough at showing that Stoic is this very big, beefy powerhouse, right? When, like, especially, even if I thought it was a little bit too zoomed in, like, we still got him, like, basically just fist fighting a monstrous nightmare. And I thought, like, yeah, again, you're doing quite well at showing Stoic and his power, right? And, like, the strength he has and everything. The other scene I thought was just a little bit
No,
funny, though. I'll finish up real quick. Is when it's Hiccup and Stoic standing side by side in one scene, and you see like, Stoic's a little bit shorter than normal. I thought that was funny.
I lost it. I lost it on that scene. I was cracking up, and it was um I went to a very late screening at the 10 p.m. one
Mhm,
because it was the only subtitle one, and
mhm.
I hate Romanian dubs. But the room was nearly empty because who takes their kids to a 10 p.m. screening? It was 10 people, and
Fair.
I was cracking up, and everyone was looking at me like, "What are you laughing at?" And I was like, "You guys not see the height difference?
It's very
How can you
funny.
not be cracking up at that?" And there was
Again,
uh,
another
I thought it was
scene
funny too.
with the two of them in Hiccup's workshop where they're both sitting on a chair and just staring at each other in silence. I was cracking at that one too.
Hmm.
I love that Stoic had some funny moments. I don't think he had any fun scenes or played for laugh scenes in the original.
no, he
So
did.
I'm glad.
He did.
I'd say one or two, but it was very rare.
I didn't feel like a
I just
difference here. But,
That's fair.
so one scene I want to bring, and for the record, we'll get to something about that scene later. Trust me, we will. But in the original, when he tells everyone that they're gonna go search for the dragons one more time before the winter comes, everyone doesn't really want to do that, and then fine, whoever stays looks after Hiccup, and then everyone wants. It's a funny scene, but I kind of like in this one where how he encourages them and builds them up and how he convinces them. It felt again, it was different from the original, but it still felt like stoic. He would be the one to give a motivational speech to encourage his peers. He would be the one to remind them, you see what we can do? Let's do this again. We got this. I thought it was a really great scene for him. Dialogue in this scene is something we will get into for reasons,
It makes him feel like a
but
chief. I agree. It is a good scene change, and it doesn't like again. It's not something that's, oh, here's a joke at Hiccup's expense, right? Again, like I said, it makes him feel more, just a little bit more like a chief and everything. Like he is leading these people, like they do follow him out of their own free will because he is good at doing it, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I agree. It's a good change.
Speaking of bullying Hiccup, one change I liked is that he was mm, not not sure if I should say less bullied, but people weren't so uh, everyone against him as before. People were more. I mean, the adults, not the teenagers. The adults were more annoyed, but not. You shouldn't exist. You know.
yeah, I
I
get what you mean.
That's
I
fair.
don't like the trope of uh m- I don't even know if it has a name of someone against the world, and no matter what they do nobody takes them seriously, nobody everyone bullies him for the sake of bullying, everyone
I
just
get
looks
you.
down
I
for
get what you're
everyone.
trying to say. If I just to make sure I get it,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not that they are necessarily despise him, but it's more that they look at him in like, we want you to do good, but
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
suck at it.
That's exactly, thank you. I didn't know
Mhm.
how to put it into words, but I like that change a lot. Because
So
again, I hate the trope, but also Hiccup was doing stuff before he started training dragons. He was an apprentice for Gobber. He was making weapons. He was useful in the Viking society. So, you know, it was weird that even though he was doing good, quote unquote, things, everyone still hated him just to hate him. And
Speaking,
also, speaking of, they made Fishlegs more his friend, like in the shows.
To some degree.
I
If
just said
anything,
more. I didn't say his friend,
yeah.
more of a friend.
I will say fish legs. I think of all the kids, barring a specific one that I'll get to later. Fish legs was the most wasted in this movie. I
Yeah.
feel.
I
think
felt very
so.
weird because Julian was the only actor from the kids that I knew before How to Train a Dragon
Um,
from Deadpool.
Mm.
And
mhm.
I
I
knew
also
what he
I
was
also saw him in
capable
Goodwill
of.
Hunting. Yeah. I saw him in Goodwill Hunting in Deadpool 2. He's a great actor. So I was kind
Yeah,
of.
so I was weird in this. What? Why does he sound so weird? Why does he not land his lines so well? Is
It's
it a
not just.
director thing? What's
I
happening?
I'm not sure it's really on him, but more that he barely had anything to work with. That's my thing.
That too,
Again, I
but
come back to my biggest issue was that there was just so many times where I could not hear what he was saying at all. So I can't say too much on like if I think he's got good fish legs, if I or anything, because I couldn't hear his lines sometimes.
there was a scene which is online as well, so if you didn't hear in the cinema, you can look it up. But there's the scene where the kids go into the arena for the first time, and Fishlegs is very nerdy about seeing dragons up close and stuff. But Julian doesn't sound excited when he's saying that line. In the same way, Christopher Mintz Please was with.
I think because they didn't try to go for excited, but more that they tried to go more of that he's the nerd. He's the one that has the answers on the drop of a hat. I
Yeah,
feel
but
like they tried to play that, but I get what you're
nerds
saying.
get excited though.
Yeah,
I'm a nerd. I get excited about stuff.
well,
And
but that's the thing that maybe I miss. It's not that he was, but they didn't try to make him an excited nerd. They tried to make him more like a calculated nerd, almost kind of like if I had to compare to something, how Jesse Eisenberg played Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network. Just to first example that came to mind. They tried to bring him up more as this technically knowledgeable kid, but they took out they make him a they made him a nerd when the original was a geek. Let's go with that.
Fair enough.
sure, it's just it's the line delivery that feels off. And in the scene before Hiccup reads the Book of Dragons, where he talks about the Scaldron and some other
Yeah.
dragons, that also felt a bit off. Again, it's the line delivery in particular. And I don't know if it's Julian because I've seen him in Deadpool and he
I
was
tell you
pulling
what,
the exact energy he should have been pulling for Fish Legs.
I think, don't quote me on this. This is just my feeling. It's not necessarily that he couldn't do it that way, but that he was directed to do it differently to differentiate
That's why
this
I'm
from the.
saying
Uh,
it's
so-
probably a director issue
yeah,
in
maybe not even
his
an issue,
case.
but I wouldn't even say it's necessarily an issue. It's just a matter of it's a different take on the character that you just weren't a fan of, and
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
also fair.
Dean is the director here, so I would assume, would know better and would know how he wants fish legs. So it definitely feels like he just told him to act differently than what we might be
Yeah,
used to for fish legs. So weird,
I'm
but
comparing to the Fish Legs from the first film,
oh, that's
by the
fair.
way, not Race to the Edge.
Though you
And
say that suddenly the dragon cards are in this movie, it's like, huh,
oh yeah,
look at that.
that was
That's
weird. But
again something that I can take or leave, but I'm like, wow, that's random.
Hmm.
yeah, me too. But I can see why because they already made merch of them. So and it's something that
Mm,
trading cards is a popular thing to do. So
yeah,
they
true.
wanted to get that out of the way earlier.
Quick thing,
But
I would just say the twins were fine. I don't really have anything to say about them, good or bad. They did the
oh,
job
I
fine.
do. Oh, I
What is
do.
it?
I don't know if I said this on the podcast or in particular, but when I found out that Tough Nut was going to be played by a gay guy, I was praying for Harry, I think his name, to bring that fruitiness that Tough Nut has in the shows, and he did. Thank you. That was one of my biggest wishes for the film, and it was fulfilled, and I feel so happy about it.
I'm glad you do. I
It's
think they
minor.
were
It's
fine.
a minor thing, but it was a wish.
That's fair.
And
Yeah.
speaking of, uh, my three main wishes for the live action came true right away. I don't know if you guys remember. I
Uh,
had three
remi-
wishes.
re- Remind us later. But Wolf, do you have anything to say about the twins? I basically said what I think.
They were fine. Definitely, other than definitely them and Fish Legs felt the weakest out of the characters here, but I think that's kind of true for the original film as well. So they were fine.
So with that, if I may,
Wait, there's one thing I want to
go
say
ahead.
for the twins because I
Go
said
ahead.
about Tough Nut.
Yeah,
I want to say something about Rough Nut. So
go
there
ahead.
was one scene in the Zippelback fighting scene where Astrid and Rough Nut got paired, which was in the original, but their dialogue wasn't, and I couldn't help but feel that exchange of dialogue was put there just for the film to pass the Bechdel test.
Well, the original kind of did too, so there's
They
that.
didn't talk.
No, they
They
did.
got paired, but they
No,
didn't
they got.
have that exchange of
Well, they had a
line.
different exchange. They had a different exchange though. So yeah.
No, they didn't. They came up in the scene where when Snotlout and Tough Nut threw water at them.
Yeah, no, they talk in the original
But
too. I
there's
can
one.
only.
Ladies and gentlemen, get in the comments. Tell us who's wrong. Because I don't fucking remember. I can't say.
I am
I
pretty sure
I
they do.
swear, I swear they don't. And it's the so the Zippelback comes with the fog, and you have Hiccup and Fishlegs, where Fishlegs is spouting out facts about the Zippelback, and Hiccups tells him to shut up. And then you have Snotlout and Toughnut, who throw water at Roughnut and Astrid, and that's when they come in, and Astrid punches Toughnut. But
Yeah.
in this film, they had a short exchange where Roughnut said girls should stick together or something,
Mhm.
something among that.
Again,
And
I think I know what you're talking about. This is added for this, but they did talk about something different in the original. That's what I mean. Hmm.
but I know it doesn't pass. At least on the internet, it doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
It passes by technicality. I guess that's the best way to say that because
Yeah, and I
we did an episode about that, so that's why I remember.
again, I felt that scene was there purely for the Bechdel test, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I couldn't help but think that that's the only reason they put the lines there,
Fair
so that
enough.
they could have one unquestionable scene of girls talking.
So
That's it.
Snotlout.
He was the best part of the film,
He
unironically.
wa-
I
out of the
swear.
That's the thing. Out of all them, I thought he was the best part also because I enjoyed that we actually got to see his rocky relationship with Spitlout in the movies for once because this was always more of a show thing.
I'm gonna
We never
argue it
really saw.
as well.
Yeah.
I think he looks more like more like the character than even Mason Thames' Hiccup does. Gabriel
Actually,
Howe looks like
every time I see
Snotlout.
this actor, I'm thinking of Brendan Rogers,
Mm.
and I'm not sure why, but
He has
he
that energy.
That's fair.
but it works. It works for this, and I like how they did the Snot Loud, Spite Loud relationship in this. Except the
Yeah.
ending, the conclusion to that arc was so out of nowhere and so. Then it's like, really, we built the whole thing just for that. That the
I
ending
mean,
ruined it for me, but that's a small price to pay.
Such a wild pick to play Spotlight because I don't think there's not too much to talk about Spotlight because he has a few extra scenes in this film, but he doesn't really have any lines other than saying, like, very much under his breath, "Don't talk to me in public." That's pretty much it. It's such a
It,
weird, like, because it's
that was the funniest scene
oh no, it was
for
great.
me.
It was a great scene.
That scene,
It's just
no, just that line, just that line. That was for me the funniest thing in the film, and it was because it
yeah.
was so unexpected.
No, that's fair. It's a very funny line. It's a very funny scene. It's just you have, I believe it's Peter Serafinowicz is how you pronounce his last name. Correct me if I'm
Yeah, I
wrong.
think that's how you say it.
But it's so wild because he's like a really good actor and very funny as well. And it's like he doesn't get to do much, and it's like, man, it's just such a weird pick. But I'm fine with
I
it.
mean,
I just thought it was weird.
I
You got Peter, and it's like you didn't do much with him.
I mean, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I'm glad David Tennant wasn't Spite Loud. Because I don't think. Wait, let me justify before you say anything. So I don't think David Tennant could have pulled the disappointed dad persona because he's such a proud dad of his real life kids. I don't think I would have believed him
That's fair.
as a disappointed
Also, I
dad.
think it would have been too distracting if it was him, but that's maybe just me.
Would have been funny though.
I I was praying after Gerard got announced as returning for Stoic. I was praying for David to return as Spite Loud because you guys know me. You know how much of a fan I am of David Tennant.
Well, to be honest, it's you and everyone else in the world, so yeah.
Fair.
So,
But and I was disappointed to find out that he wouldn't be in the film. But after seeing the film, I'm actually glad that he wasn't.
so
However, I am still holding out hope that he will be cast as Ivar the Witless if the third film is ever made into live action.
we will have to wait and see. But I will say I really like that we got this because one, it gives us something that wasn't in the original. Two, it gives Snadlout a lot more to do. And
Mhm.
three, it also feels like Dean acknowledging that he's aware of the shows and that he likes the shows and that this is something that maybe he had some sort of a say on or something. So I like that it's there. But then I have to say the ending bit of it though, when Spitlout just looks at Snotlout on top of the red dead and goes, "That's my boy. My boy's up there." And that's it. That's where it ends. It's like, really? Really? That's it?
Well,
No one and nothing else. Just
get
that. Okay,
they
sure.
get that
But
look
then
between one another and the nod.
that's not enough though. And the other thing, and then, but then somebody brought up. I've seen a few people who maybe just saw the movies and like them, and then saw this remake. But they said that yeah, in a way, isn't this arc a bit redundant when it's basically Hiccup's arc too? That now we have two kids fighting for the approval of their dad.
I mean, that's kind of always the way it's been, though.
Yeah, again, I don't mind personally. I just thought I'll bring this up as a question.
I mean, it's a fair question, but again, even in the originals, that's kind of how it's always been. Of they've both been fighting for their dad's approval, maybe in different ways because different
I
family
want to say that
dynamics, but it's always been
it's
the
more of
same.
a parallel thing, sort of,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
uh, Stoic never saw Hiccup as a disappointment in the way that Spite Loud saw Snot Loud. But
Mhm.
at the same time, Hiccup was trying way, way harder to please his dad than Snot Loud ever was. So in the context of the first film, and then Riders of Berk for Snot Loud, let's say that, because Race to the Edge, obviously Hiccup doesn't need. Hiccup has all of his father's approval. That doesn't count.
Depends on the episode. Ahem, ahem, season 6,
I
episode 2. Ahem.
Okay, you know what
if
I mean,
you
HC.
I know. I'm just being a dick.
if you base it, I would disagree with you a bit. If you base it off like all the animated stuff, I would argue that Snotlout is trying to seek his father's approval far more than Hiccup is. If you base it just off the movies, fair enough. But I I will say this is definitely one of those little tidbits that this particular version of How to Train Your Dragon has added in that if you've done this, are you going to do any more with it in the second film? Because it does need some kind of nod now. You need to do a little bit more with this. You need to take it a little bit further now and do something in the second film. Otherwise, I will agree. What was the point in this? I don't think
So,
it takes
That's a
any. I
future
don't.
problem.
Yeah, no, fair. It's definitely one of those things of I do, since they are working on a second film, I do want to see them do more with it. But it doesn't need to be anything super major, but I definitely want to see them do a little bit
That's
more with it
fair.
and address it at the very least, like a
so
nod.
you
Yeah,
probably know.
one thing that the relationship between Snotlout and his father was one of the things I liked the most about the film is that the live action is that they expanded the world of Berk beyond Stoic, Gobber, and the teenagers. Because in the animated film, they were the only characters, really. Everyone
Fair.
else was just the background extra, and because of animation, a lot of them had the exact same model, and just copy pasted how animation works. And that's not something bad about the animation. Once again, when I say stuff like this, I'm not discounting the animation. But
Understand.
because of Snotlout and Spitelout's relationship and Gothy, which she also had something from the shows added to the film, the chicken bone reading scene. That was from Animal House.
Yeah, that's actually something that I found interesting
Yeah.
that you always
And
see her
then
like doing those calculations. That was a nice touch.
and then you had all the other Vikings who, despite not having a major role, they felt more like actual characters than the animated stuff. I mean, could you tell me who Starcard is, or Hork, or Ack in the original animation? They are
No,
credited.
and I can't tell you who it is in this movie, to be honest.
I
They're
can tell
not. They're
you.
not. They're not in the film, by the way. They're not in this film. They replaced them with other characters, but
Ah.
they are credited as characters in the. Maybe you remember Phlegma, but that's because she was made a major character in School of Dragons.
Well,
Otherwise,
she got a bigger,
but
like she had a few more speaking roles in this film
yeah,
because
and the other characters as well. There was one character I forgot the name of in this film that was played by an actress I knew, but I didn't know she was in the film. It was, hold on. Recha, I think it would be pronounced, the name of the character, and she was portrayed by Anna Leon Brophy, which I know from Shadow and Bone. And when I saw her on the screen, I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. I love you. And I didn't know I loved her until this film, because I did like her in Shadow and Bone, but seeing actors, but not necessarily are a fan of in other stuff. That's a nice surprise.
fair enough.
And she got a few lines as well. I don't think her name was mentioned, but she did get a few lines. I was really paying attention to her character, and I hope she returns for the sequel because she didn't die in the battle.
Fair enough.
So,
So now I think we have one more thing to talk about, and can I please take this? I have a whole speech ready. So when I'm done, I'll tell you I'm done, and then you
Should
can
ask
tell me if you
okay,
agree with
briefly.
me or not.
Is this about Gobber?
go.
I said teen wolf.
Oh, one more team. Okay, go ahead. I thought you said thing. My apologies.
Oh my. I I
That
know Gobber is missing 2 limbs, but that doesn't make him an object wolf.
okay. Anyway,
My apologies.
so please let me go on this. I'll tell you when I'm done, and then you can tell me if you disagree.
All right, go for it.
So, here we go. Astrid was done so fucking dirty in this remake. She was abysmal, and for the record, no issues with Nico Parker or her skin color. That's not the freaking issue. For one, I'm not going to blame her because I'm sure she's a good actress, but the direction she was given, not good at all. All her line deliveries are bland, like they're trying to mimic off Zendaya's MJ in the MCU Spider-Man movies. Only it doesn't really work here. This chick has no emotion. I mean Astrid, not Nico. And again, no disrespect for Nico. I'm sure she's a great actress who got a bad script. Now, let's go back. Let's actually talk about the script, right? So they try to justify the whole idea of, oh, why they ethnic here, because apparently there are a bunch of migrants.
Uh,
Well,
you
weird.
want to go through that? You're breaking up quite a bit there, HC.
For the love of my
Sorry.
anger. So, anyway, so they establish in Stuik's speech that there are a few immigrant Vikings on Berk,
Yeah.
and this is supposed to, be the explanation to why Astrid has a bit of a darker skin, why Fish Legs has that, why there are different here.
Yeah.
I think I get what they were trying to do, but and again, it's something that you can take or leave. This one be that much in anything else, but I feel like it's trying to get people who racist people will never be on your side with this thing. You're fighting a losing battle. You don't. If you want to have them there, have them there. I don't need an explanation that they are immigrants. And again, I wouldn't mind, except this seems to be somewhat of part of Astrid's character, because from the start, she despises Hiccup. It's not like in the original where she's not really fond of him, but she's trying to push him. She's more frustrated that he can't really take anything seriously, and that he doesn't grasp anything. But she never really bullied him or anything. In this, literally, one of the first things she says to him is, "If you weren't the chief's son, we would have shipped you away already." Whoa, okay, these two are supposed to be together, huh? Oh, sure, whatever, movie. And then there's the entire scene after the Book of Dragons thing, where she literally tells him, "I always eyed your house. I want to be chief and kick you out of there." Because you don't appreciate anything. You are. She basically claims Hiccup is entitled because he's Stuik's son, and that gets him places where he's not supposed to be. Well, she had to work hard for it. You know what? That's a good idea on paper. Two problems with this, though. One, we never see her struggle. From the minute she's introduced, she is the golden girl. Everyone treats her like she's the golden girl. Garber praises her in the dragon classes. Snatlout still has the hearts for her. Hiccup obviously does. Everyone seems to admire her. Where is the supposed struggle that you're talking about? Where is that? We never see that. It's the worst case of a tell don't show. And the other thing about this, and the other thing is that when she actually tells Hiccup, "I'm going to kick you out of your house because I'm chief instead of you." One, what in the how did this even happen? I get that she's mad at him, but what the fuck? And two, when she says that, and his reaction is, "Oh, you are like the daughter my father always said," and it's like, no, Dean, you're not smart. I can see that the entire point of that scene was to tell the shippers, "Hey, you get Ixtrid, huh? Huh? It's gonna happen. You know it's gonna happen. You know we're going there, huh? Huh?" Only this time she wants to be chief, not for marrying Hiccup. She wants to be chief on her own. But we all know, wink, wink, that she's only going to be chieftess because she's going to ride his dick later. Wink, wink. You know what I'm doing, right? 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 So when this happened, I was grabbing my head in my hands. I'm like, you can't be serious. You can't be serious by trying to give Astrid something, an ambition of some sort, and then make her super unlikable and super exaggerated, and then expect me to believe that the romantic flight scene is going to change her when it was rushed in the original as is. Now it's on fucking Mach speed. Even Sonic the Hedgehog would look and go, "Wow, that's fast." This is such a rare thing, and this is such a weird thing and a weird change to give her all of that, and then not only make her super unlikable and make the entire, but then there's no resolution to this. It doesn't matter. The entire thing of, "I fought so hard to be where I am," What do you mean? There's no indication. There's no conclusion to this. Besides maybe Stuik having that moment of you when Toothless barges into the arena. Astrid suffers no repercussions to what she supposedly fought for. This was such a wasted idea, a wasted potential, and it made one of the core characters of this franchise, which people still like, worse, way worse. She's the worst part in this movie. I couldn't stand Astrid in this. Done.
Very passionate.
Yeah, you cut off for a lot of that speech, but I got the gist of it. You don't need to repeat it.
I heard all of it. The recording got most of it, other than the one area I spoke about. That was it. That was the only time you cut out for me. So we're good on the recording, at least.
Anyway, done.
Fair enough.
So, Wolf, do you want to go first, or should I?
Go for it. I'll wait.
Sure. I don't know if I should respond to your speech, HC, which, by the way, full points, but full points for the speech, not for the, for the way you said
Just
it.
say it. I know you're going to say you disagree, so go for it.
Oh, no, wait.
Oh.
I wanted to say, I don't know if I should respond to that or say my own opinion on Astrid. Because I agree with some and disagree with others.
So let's start with what do you agree with? We'll save the disagreements for later.
The speech, the I wanna be chief speech, that was so random. Why not general? That was a thing in the franchise, in The Serpent's Hair, where where she became Berk's general, and in Race to the Edge she was in Berk's guard, if I recall. But why not general? Why chief? That speech could have been so much better if it was just general. General in the army, because she's the fighter. Why chief? Why do you want to lead? You don't seem like a leader. You seem like a fighter, but not a leader. So why would you want to be chief? That was my problem with the speech. Nico's delivery of it was really good, but it's the words that I have a problem with. And also when Hiccup was so submissive to that, yeah, sure, go for it. I don't doubt you would make a great chief. Why? Also,
Like I said,
he was
Dean
so...
winking at you.
No, wait, he was so submissive and she was continuing to attack him. That's like beating a whimpering dog. What? Why? However, the part that I disagree with is the off-screen training, because at least how I saw the film is that it was implied that her life up until that point she struggled. So now you see how well she's doing because she struggled in the past.
He was being implied.
Wait, as in, if we were to see her struggle, it would be a flashback, not current timeline.
Show me that shit. Show me something that establishes the bullshit backstory you came up.
That, because in the original animation, she was also very good from the start and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it wasn't the main plot point. She was supposed to be the top dog. She was what Hiccup was looking up to be. That's the thing. It's a completely different when you suddenly try to make her sympathetic as I struggled a lot and you sacrificed nothing. Show me the sacrifices. I don't care if it's a flashback or whatever. Show that shit if you want me to care about this bitch.
I mean, same would go for anyone in the tribe. Snotlout or Fishlegs would sacrifice if they cared. Would sacrifice stuff more than Hiccup would, because he's the son of the chief and he
That's
always gets
not
attacked.
the point, though. That's not the issue.
Again, it wasn't an issue for me. That
I can. Fair enough. I
implying
don't know.
something is enough. Yes, it was tell don't show. Sure, I agree with that. However, I don't necessarily need to see a flashback to say, yeah, you struggled. Wait, I need to phrase this because
I
you
get what
had your
you.
whole speech and now I sound like I'm
No,
uh,
I get what you mean.
walking on
I
water.
understand. I understand. I get where you're coming from. I don't agree with it because one, the reasons I mentioned, and two, Hiccup struggles just as much. Privilege or not, this kid's life ain't easy until Toothless.
I mean,
Arguably,
yeah,
even
but
then.
he wasn't um well, maybe this is because I read the books, so my culture of Birkins is muddled a bit. But there was a thing in the books that, again, I think it was just in the books. I cannot make the distinction right now, where the weak are left behind. Was that a thing in the shows as well?
No, it's not
I
a
The
thing in
think
the
it
weak of
was a
the
shows.
book.
tribe.
I think it was a book
That
thing.
was a book thing.
Okay, okay. Because I was thinking about that, and that's fair. But if it's just a book, then no. Ah, yeah. But again, for me personally, implying is enough. I
If
believe
it
you.
works for you,
You know.
if it works for you, then good. I just felt you can't just throw me this entire exposition at me and expect me to like this character
Which is
when
fair.
all
I
she says to one character is, "I'm going to kick you out of your house." You piss me off.
I
That's
like
fair.
Nico's performance in that particular scene. I have some stuff to say about other scenes, but in that scene, I liked Nico's performance enough to let the tell don't show thing go.
Also fair.
Fair
If
enough. I disagree, but fair.
there's another scene, and I think you guys will know exactly which scene I'm talking about, where her delivery just fell off compared to the rest of the film. So, not compared to her other acting credits, compared to the same film. And it's when she finds Hiccup in the forest, and that's for the lies and that's for everything else.
I knew you were going to
Dean,
bring this up.
Dean, what the fuck? Why didn't you roll a second take? Was that the only take? Are you kidding
Also,
me? I
can
know
you?
she's capable of more. I've seen it in previous scenes, and I saw it again in later scenes. So I know Nico can deliver those lines. So
And
let
also
her.
the way she reacts to Toothless is also just. What are you doing? Are you doing anything? I can't tell.
That was the scene that uh, made me realize, oh wait, this is Dean's first live action. Of course, he's not a great director with kids.
She's like 18 now, so or
I
even
know, I
more.
know, I know.
She's an
But
adult
still,
altogether.
teenagers, they're,
Mhm.
let's say teenagers. Because, yeah, okay, she's young, so she needs a lot of direction for stuff. And I know she's capable of, because, again, in the scene where she says to Hiccup, I want to be chief, that was a great scene from an acting perspective. She delivered those shitty lines very well. And that's a thing that I can compliment her for. And I don't know what the timeline of the production was, but if the scene with Toothless was filmed after that scene, that would be weird because how can you do better before? And then what? It looked like she was trying to remember her lines when she was doing so good before that point. What happened there, Dean? I hope you're listening to this podcast for some reason and I want an answer.
If you do, I'm sorry that I have to rip this hard into you, but you left me no choice. Wolf, you have a take?
Oh yeah.
Maybe?
I'm gonna disappoint you, HC. I have no strong feelings either way.
Well, I was interested because I know that you
No,
didn't really care for it originally. At
yeah.
least not.
I'm
Oh,
I'm
if
kind of
we're saying
indifferent.
that,
I'll be honest.
I also didn't care towards disliked Astrid in the original. I'm sorry, Audrey, in case you're listening to this. I'm
By
sorry,
the way,
HC, because you're surely listening to this, but I did not like Astrid, and I disliked her a bit in the original, and I was
to be
hoping
honest,
for this to
I
improve that.
one thing I forgot about my speech is that Astrid and the romance was always kind of seen as like one of the weaker developments in the original,
Mhm.
and why they tried to give her more, but they just ended up making her. And speaking of Audrey, I actually right after I left the theater, as soon as I got home, I got on a call with her. I told her this whole thing, and she was like, "What is she?" You can tell that she was. It's like if I start. It's like if I stopped the sword inside her heart. She was mad.
Spoilers for Audrey's video that'll come out later.
Don't don't count on it. Maybe,
Fair,
but
fair.
so Wolf, I know. So yeah, I was curious about your take since I know you never
Yeah,
really liked
I
it in
I
the
don't know.
first
I'm kind of indifferent about it. Like I'm indifferent about it. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like it didn't bother me, and it didn't make me go, "Yeah, I like this Astrid more." I'm just indifferent about this one. I'll be honest. You get no opinion from me. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
you know,
somehow I
I,
somehow liked Nico but didn't like Astrid, which is weird to say, but I'm talking strictly about the film. I haven't seen much of the interviews, but I liked Nico a lot in the film. I just didn't like the character. And that's a weird thing to say about any piece of media that involves actors.
and again, I said this in the start of my rant, and this is not meant to as an any dig on Nico or
Yeah,
or ethnicity or anything. Get the fuck out with that shit.
yeah.
This is not the point here. The point here is that she got a bad script. I'm not necessarily blaming her for for the performance I didn't really care for. I and the character ended up suffering for that. Sadly. It's not her fault. It's the fault of everyone around it.
Yeah.
Again, apart from that scene where that's for everything else, the first one, the second one was better. The kiss was fine. Actually, I said this a while ago to HC because when the film was screened at some university a month ago,
They had like
the
three
kiss
screenings,
was
yeah.
yeah, the kiss was leaked, and just the kiss, just that 10 seconds. And when I saw that on Twitter, I thought, man, Nico looks like she knows exactly what she's doing, and Mason looks like it's the first time he's kissing a girl. And I don't know if it's the director or the actors. And either way, it's very funny because it's in character for both of
Mhm,
them.
mhm.
But if it's the actors and not the director telling them to do that, it's even funnier. Oh.
So
Oh, and
moving on.
speaking of, actually, one last thing on Astrid. One scene I loved, and it's the one I mentioned a while ago that I also saw a leak of, and I thought it was hardcore, was the scene where she jumped in the Red Death's mouth and chopped
So
its skin
that's
off.
I wanted to
I
say
love
I
that.
wanted to end the Astrid portion with a bit of levity because there are two parts which cracked me up unintentionally. One is just before romantic flight. In the original, they hang Astrid off of a tree where she could have gone down. It wasn't, it was dangerous, but she could have gotten out of it. Here they hang her off a cliff, which no, this is death. You're sentencing her to death. What the fuck? Hey? What the hell, dude? And and then the other thing. So I actually liked the bit because in the original, after the twins rescue Snotlout, which by the way, we'll get to this later. So so in the original, the Red Death kind of pulls them both over, and then Astrid and Stormlight get separated. Astrid falls down. Tutas grabs her and puts her. Here, they actually had this thing that the Red Death captures Stonefly's tail, and Astrid goes in for the rescue to, she actually runs across the tail and starts beating the Red Death's, teeth in order to free Stonefly.
Mhm.
That I thought was actually a really cool scene. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, Astrid, let's fucking go. But then Astrid gets trapped inside the mouth, and Stonefly just flies away without trying to rescue her. And then at the end, where they have like ending monologue, and Astrid is riding it again, I'm like, bitch, you left me to die. I'm getting a typhoomerang. What is wrong with you? That cracked me up. That's like, yeah, thanks for
I-
saving
that-
me. Bye.
That's so unintentionally funny because Astrid's book counterpart, Kamikaze, has a dragon called Typhoon. So
I don't know.
I see. I
I just
know you
wanted.
didn't mean it,
I just thought it would sound funny. That's it.
but I thought, wow, Astrid has something to do in the final battle except distract Snotlout. Yay! I thought, and I was disappointed that I saw the leak because if I would have seen that scene for the first time in the cinema, I would have went wild. I would have been, holy shit, yes, yes, and I would have probably ruined the experience for other people around me, but it would have been much better for me. So selfishness, but can you blame
I
me?
I was kind of laughing, but yeah, but it was cool. Again, cool idea on concept. And speaking of
Yeah,
the
it
climax,
was it
I
was a very
didn't get.
Astrid thing to do. It
Yeah,
it was very in character for her to do. And also it wasn't that the Red Death just grabbed Stormfly by the tail. The Red Death was doing the signal that she was doing for dragons and hypnotizing
I know.
Stormfly into entering her mouth. And I thought that was much cooler than the
That's what
vacuum
I
mouth
know.
from the original.
I was just trying to simplify it for the sake of it.
Yeah. Fair.
So the other thing actually about the climax, am I the only one who finds that again can take or leave at the end of the day? Though that bothers me a bit more because it just goes against the point, kinda. What did you think about Stonefly being the one who gives the orders? I thought it was pointless.
Say again.
I thought Astrid giving the orders to the riders in the clan, that was pointless to me. The point in the original was for Hiccup to take on his lead. Why give it to Astrid?
He wants to be chief, remember?
And no, I don't, because they dropped that ball early and they don't do anything with it. Fuck that. Like I said in my rant, they do nothing with this shit.
I assume it's gonna be one of those things that they're gonna show Hiccup being in that leader position more in the next film. So
Maybe.
I'm fine with it here. I don't think it takes anything away. I think it's definitely them trying to add more to Astrid's character, right?
Yeah, I didn't mind
Yeah,
it. It's
it's
just
not. It's
neutral
not.
change.
It's
I
one of
get
the.
it.
It's
If you
one of
don't
those
like it,
things
that's
that.
completely fair.
It's one of those
I mean,
things where like it's not a big deal, but this is raising an eyebrow a bit.
That's fair.
you
That's
could
fair.
argue that because Hiccup was such an outcast between the teenagers, Astrid knew them more, and because she's
But
also
that's the
very
point
wait,
in
wait,
the
wait, 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 wait.
original.
And because she's also such a good fighter, she knows their strengths and weaknesses better.
But that's the point in the
I'm just
original.
saying
That Hiccup learns this. It's part of his growth.
he can learn it too. He'll get there.
Again, probably a take or leave because I know people because I've talked
That's
to
fair.
someone about this and I said I don't get it because of so and so when they tried arguing with me because Hiccup knows that he's not the right person for this job now and I'm yeah I know he's the guy who went beating the Red Death by blowing it up. Don't give me the shit that he's not the right person. And
I'll
they said,
say
well, I did, but then they told me, well, I didn't really like how how he was So all I'll say, it's probably a matter of opinion. I can't really say it's good or bad. I just don't really get the change.
There's one character we haven't talked about though.
Well, I'll
Gobble,
say, well,
probably.
yeah,
Gobber. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get there. I'll say, to the Astrid, I'll say her giving out the orders. If it does anything, it kind of takes away from showing how Hiccup does observe the other teens and how he does, even if he's an outcast, he still observes them and he still understands them to a degree.
Mhm.
It takes away from that bit of his character and how it shows, off that bit of his character. But again, it's one of those things of like, I'm not opposed to it. It's fine. It's something that they can show more of in the second film potentially. So
So I guess Gobble.
I thought Nick Frost.
I
I thought he was fine. I have no
I
issues with
thought
this.
he
It's
was
different, but fine.
I thought he was better than the animation. And
Mm,
again, not to discredit the
no, fair,
animation. I
fair.
think I said this
I
for 5 times now.
no, you're fair.
But I liked humorous Gobber more than just regular, not regular, but boring teacher Gobber. This Gobber was more full of jokes and stuff, even at the end where Stoic finds Hiccup and his missing leg, and Gobber says the exact same line as in the animation, well, most of him, but he says it in a funny way, in a humorous way. And yeah, I liked him more funny than. I wouldn't say he was stoic in the original, but he was more serious and not in a Viking who went through a lot of fights and war and battles and got scars kind of serious, just regular type of serious person.
I disagree, but I think a lot of that comes down to Craig Ferguson and how he does his lines in the original, and I just prefer that more. But I thought Nick Frost was fine as Gobber. I think I definitely
Yeah, he
prefer
was.
Craig Ferguson more, but that's just me personally.
Gobber was the least changed in terms of actual lines, but one of the most distinct where you can tell apart very easily the live action version from the animated version in
Yeah.
terms of personality and mannerisms, even though the lines were 95% the same. And I thought that's good. We have a very good point of reference for how the live action is different, but not necessarily worse and not necessarily better.
That's fair.
It's okay.
HC, your
I was
thoughts?
saving this for the end, but
Oh,
I
go ahead.
think it fits more here now. The way I went to see the live action coming from a theater background was saying the same production with a different cast.
Mhm.
Because I have seen that. I have seen the exact same play with the exact same lines, but said by different actors, with a different director, different set designs, different costumes, soundtrack stuff. And that's how I went to see. And I think it helped because a lot of the people I've seen on the internet who compared the live action with the animation were either, oh, this was worse or this was better. Nobody was saying this was different, but not worse nor better. I have not seen anyone say that on the internet yet. And I think that's considering this is a lot of shot for shot with very few changes. I would recommend, if I could, to watch it with this mindset. It's different, but just different. Not good nor bad, different, just different.
Well, besides that one
And
scene which destroys the Chekhov's gun and point of view, but
you know what I mean,
yeah,
HC.
yeah, I know, but but that's the thing when I'm looking at the whole package. That's the
Yeah.
bad. That's
And Gobber is the perfect example because he was the least changed in
so to
terms of like,
me. So to me, I am on and off about this Gobble. On the one hand, he's different than Craig Ferguson, which I don't mind.
Yeah.
But it also feels that he's, how do I say this? There's somewhat of a there's somewhat of a rhythm to the original, to how Craig Ferguson delivers his lines, to how
Yeah.
he's in there. I don't think Nick Frost necessarily has that same rhythm. That being said, he's doing what he's asked to do fine. There are points where, you know what, I think I got it. When he's doing his own take on either lines that are gobbery, or that when he's given something else to do that's not in the original, he's good. When he has to do the same thing that Craig Ferguson did, that's where it's, it's on and off for me. Sometimes it works better, sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't work. I'm on and off.
I'm pretty much the same way. Again, I'll lean towards. I think he's fine. I think he did a good enough job. I just prefer Craig Ferguson more. Is what I would say.
Speaking of that, this is more of a directing. One of my favorite underrated where when it's just the Viking
You're cutting
and
out a lot again, HC.
and the Stoic. What did you say?
You're cutting out a lot again. So you might have to
Damn
repeat
it!
some of that.
So I said that one of my favorite underrated parts of the original is during the climax where Stoic tries to distract the Red Dead, and Gobel tells him, "I'm gonna stay with you," and Stoic tells him, "No, I can buy everyone more time if I give this thing something to hunt." And Gobel shakes his hand and goes, "I can double that time." I love that part. Such a good moment. I love that.
Agreed.
Here they have the exchange, but the way they film it, things that they do, it didn't hit this time around. Even though it's there, the action that they're doing, what they're pushing this thing, I don't know, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel impactful to me.
For me, it felt the exact reverse of what you just said. I felt more during that exchange during the live action than I felt during the animation.
Well, you can have wrong opinions. That's okay. Okay, but jokes aside,
How?
jokes aside. I get it. It's fine.
But yeah,
I just wanted to say that.
it's definitely going to be like
Yeah,
an opinion thing, right? And what you prefer.
yeah.
I
This
definitely agree with HC. I preferred the animation version of that one more, but again, it's fine. You're going to hear that a lot. It's fine.
And the other thing, so the climax. Let's ignore the line out, right? Let's ignore the final fight itself. I think was done well. I even like there's a touch that I like when they manage to blow holes in the Red Death's wing and Hiccup and Toothless are flying through those holes. That was a neat visual. And also the scene where the shot where Toothless tries to save Hiccup from fire, they nailed that. That was important. And then the whole scene afterwards, in the original, when they see Toothless over there, no sign of Hiccup, Stuik falls down, everyone is looking sad, and then Toothless reveals that Hiccup is there, and Stuik goes, "He's alive. You brought him back alive." This scene breaks me every time I watch. No fail. This scene gets me every time. This one is longer. They prolonged it, and I think that harms the impact. If I'm honest with you.
Hmm. I don't know. I'm of two minds about. I kind of liked that it was a little bit longer, but at the same time, I do agree with you. I don't know if it's better. I personally like it, but I don't know if it's better in general. Right? It's definitely a weird
I
one.
think
It's definitely
it
yeah.
it was a good thing to prolong it, but they prolonged it too much.
Maybe
So
that's fair.
Because then when we
it
get to
would
the
have
point,
worked. It would have worked if it was longer, but not that long. Longer. No, stop. That's too long. That's
yeah,
kind of how I.
and again, considering the odd cuts they do to for friendship, it's like, why is it longer than it should be? and kind of harming the emotion. But then I am surprised. Not to say surprised, but I think I made this joke on the mic that I was afraid that the one thing they would, but he still does, and I think the reveal still works. But funny thing for me, you know how we talked about titles earlier? Hello?
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah.
Okay, but when you say I'm cutting off, then
Well,
make sure that I. So
sorry.
we talked about subtitles earlier,
Yeah.
and so when Hiccup is trying to walk for the first time, and then Toothless grabs them, and he goes, "I don't know what the translator was smoking, but it translated it as Tank's dad, as opposed to Tank's bud."
What?
Hmm.
Uh,
So you could technically say that canonically Hiccup called Toothless Daddy. Do whatever you want with that. I don't know.
no, don't give the fanfiction people any more ideas, please.
The translator did it. I take no responsibility. Blame the
You made
translator.
it public. You made it public, HC.
I mean,
Uh,
other people would have to.
yeah, most likely. But also the ending bit again. It felt everything's there. The pieces are there. It didn't feel as tight as the original to me.
That's fair.
In
Like
what way?
after once Hiccup leaves the house, sees that like
No,
I
in what
miss
way
the
tight? I'm not sure what you mean by tight.
well when you want to say that something is done well, then you say that it's a tight script, it's a tight ending. It's like when you say that it felt
No,
better.
mm, 'cause I was just what do you mean in this particular case?
I would say for the
I
ending.
think the original ending felt a lot more. The pacing of it, everything about it felt it just felt a lot better to me than how they did it here.
Hmm. I
Uh,
mean, there are a few
So again,
small
not
changes
bad.
that I liked, but about the ending. But I don't know about how I feel about the whole scene. I just liked a few of the details they added,
Mhm.
like Stoic saying, "Yeah, we flew back on dragons." I, I mean, it's obvious that they flew back on dragons because their ships were burned, but you don't think about it, when you're watching the scene in the animation. So having it said out loud, I think makes that part of the scene a bit better. And uh, I think I might be misremembering, but I think there was during Hiccup's ending monologue a small snippet of the twins washing Barf and Belch, or putting oil on his skin or something. And that's from Race to the Edge, and I like that. I like those
Speaking of,
2 seconds.
I wanted to bring this up, but I forgot. But it wasn't the right point, and I forgot. Is it me or did they switch rough and tough for Buff and Belch?
Did they? Wait, I have
The,
to
I,
The
check.
hell if I don't. For be honest,
because,
I'm the wrong.
because I tell you what, when they're flying, I don't remember it, but when they all look at and they think Hiccup's dead, I noticed that it's rough near Belch and tough near Buff, so that's why I was like,
Which
wait a
wait,
minute.
which one was ah? I'm a true How to Train Your Dragon fan.
Same.
I promise, guys.
Same.
But I don't
No.
know which one's Barf and which one's Belch.
Well, I always know that because of how they write that Buff is the
I
one.
don't know how they
If you
how they
no, no,
ah.
tell you what. If you're staring right at them, like if you're face to face with, Buff is on the left, Belch is on the right.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay, I checked in the poster. It looks right. So Rafnat
So
should be on the right side of the dragon and
yeah,
Toughnut on the left side.
Yeah,
and
but
that's how they are in
maybe
the
it was,
post.
but maybe it was just for this one scene that they changed them for some reason. I don't know. I just noticed. I didn't notice
I
that
mean,
when they were flying around, but I don't know.
there was a thing in the second film at the end when they reunite with the dragons where the twins go to the other heads and then they switch back. So
No, that's. I think you're
my
referring to something from Race to the Edge because there's the point where
no 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 no.
Raph go.
So
No. In the second movie, it's like when Raph goes, "Oh, Balf," and Belch comes to her. She goes, "Not yet." So
no, that was at the end of How to Train Your Dragon 2.
yeah,
There
that's what you said. The
when
second movie.
Yeah, so in the second film they had that scene, but they also wait, were I think it no wait, it was the third film and the goodbye scene where they hugged the other heads as well. I'm confusing. Barf and Belch are confusing.
To the point
Yeah,
the point of the matter though is that I think at least one scene they changed. I wasn't sure if they changed when they write them as well. I asked. That's it.
Fair enough.
If you didn't notice, you didn't
yeah.
notice.
If it was on the ground when they were on the ground, the fact that they were the other heads, it could just be that they bonded with the whole dragon and to show that. So, you know.
I guess. Well, anyway, one tiny thing about the ending that I think they could have done is there was no close up on Toothless's new tail. And again, might be a nitpick, but considering this tail fin is so iconic because he has it for the entirety of the second movie. He has it for half the third movie, and he has it in all the short films and the shows and everything. We could have gotten a one shot of that. This still gets no fanfare. I just a nitpick on my end though.
I'm gonna say it. That should have been their after credits scene.
Oh, you want to talk about that shit?
Well,
Wait,
before we
Oh,
what?
do, I'll just briefly
Wait,
say,
what? There's
oh
an
no, go ahead.
after credit scene?
it's
Yes.
nothing.
I mean, it's nothing. It like if you left beforehand, you didn't miss anything. But
Oh.
we've been conditioned by Marvel, so I was like, I'll stay just in case. You never know. Maybe they'll have something.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to catch the bus home if I would
No,
have
fair.
stayed, so.
Well, I mean, we can just tell you the after credit scene is basically just you remember, Mason Thames like his hiccup, drawing of Toothless in his book.
Yeah.
That's the after credit scene. It's just him showing that again and tapping on the paper. That's it.
Oh.
That's it. That's all it is.
Oh.
It's
So the
nothing.
funny thing
Then
about
what?
this for me, funny thing about
Why?
this for me though, funny thing about this, I just have to say, I got to the theater before the movie began, and they let people in while the previous screening was still wrapping up. Like I was able to walk in during the credits, and then when the credits ended, I'm like, ooh, what? There's a post credits scene in this, and then I saw that it's like, that it. I remember, I'm like, I was already disappointed.
I heard
And then
someone in the
this
theater behind me say the exact same thing. That's fucking it, really? Fuck. I
and,
word for word. I kid you not. I thought that was hilarious.
but the one thing I will say, the first time that there's technically a new song in the credits, but it's not really a song. Like they basically took one of the melodies from the original franchise and this, and they gave it lyrics. And at first, it cut me so off that I started laughing. I was asking them to what did Brental Floss take over the sound design? What if How to Train Your Dragon had lyrics? And that cracked me up, but the song did grew on me a bit after that.
Fair enough.
I was waiting for it to drop because I saw the film on Monday, but the soundtrack didn't release on the internet until Friday. So I was waiting. I was waiting for it to drop to listen to it, and I listened to it. Trust me, I listened to it. I'm gonna reach Spotify Wrapped this year, and it's gonna say that I'm in the top 0.001% listeners of that song or something.
Fair enough.
Because I
Um,
really, even though I don't hear the lyrics, I'm waiting for a lyric video or something because I can hear
yeah,
their words
they
spoken.
are hard to understand. Like Wolf, I
But
can. Considering you said you could barely understand the characters,
Barely
no,
heard it.
these
Barely heard it.
So anyway, so this wasn't terrible, nothing
Wait, are
amazing.
we not going to talk about Valka?
But, I mean, they name drop her, and that's it.
That was not it. Her death, quote unquote, was used as a plot device, and I thought it was really cool. And it was one of my 3 wishes for the film. For
And
her, even though she wouldn't appear physically, for her to have more impact on the plot, and she did. And I was really happy that they did that. For example, when Stoic and Hiccup were yelling at each other, Stoic says, "That's how your mother. One of the dragons took your mother. Why are you siding with them?" I thought that was a good addition.
Mm-hmm.
In
again,
hindsight, in
to me, I can take or leave it. It's like, yeah, I kind of like that it's there, but I'm also it's not really necessary. It didn't really add. It didn't really think it's a nice that it's there though. I suppose.
I know it's not necessary. It's just it was one of my 3 wishes
That's
for
fair.
her to be mentioned more.
Though
And that,
actually, something here they mentioned Valka now because obviously now they know Valka is franchise. They know who she is. They know where she's at. So they name drop her. But then Stuick still says nobody saw a Night Fury. It's like, what are you talking about? You know who Grimmel is. Why not? Why not walk with that?
wait, does
Unless,
he?
unless,
Wait,
yeah.
what?
What do you mean?
In the opening, there's a very quick there's a very quick moment when he says something about no one really sees those Night Fury. It's a line where Stuick just that rare and
When
what.
was it mentioned that Stoic knew Grimmel?
It's in
That
In the
the
third movie,
third movie,
Grimmel
yeah.
literally tells Hiccup, "Well, your father heard, your father heard about me."
Yeah.
I thought that was by reputation, that Grimmel knew Stoic by reputation. I have to rewatch The Hidden World. Hold on.
That's fair.
But even if he knew him by
Not now.
reputation, then he
It
would
could be
know that.
it could be a both, but HC does have a point. Even if you knew by reputation, then you would know he's killed
No,
Night
the other
Furies and
way.
things.
As in, Grimmel knew who Stoic was by reputation, but Stoic didn't know
Well,
who
no,
Grimmel was.
But
Grimmel
then why would he
specifically,
tell him your father's heard about me?
yeah, Grimmel specifically says like your father knew of me, right? So that
Uh,
implies at the very least, right? He knew of Grimmel's reputation. So like what's HC saying, right? Is
well,
that
maybe
means
they're
if
changing Grimmel for the
yeah,
third film, which would be
Yeah, but
great.
my
what
hope
I
Which would be
mean
great.
though, what I mean though is if you're gonna start name dropping Valka, you could probably drop some hints at that as well.
or Grimmel's not going
What
to
if?
be in the third film. We're going to have
Yeah,
evil Valka
what if?
and Drago being the last villain. Which hey, let's go for it, Dean. Fucking do it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say because Dean said that if before the sequel was announced, he said that if he were to make more live actions, he would do the things he didn't do for the animations, which is
Then
implied, not
Yeah,
he didn't say it outright, but it's implied that it's Valka as a villain and Drago as a villain for the third film.
let's go,
because
Dean.
Wolf and
Fucking do
I,
it. Let's go.
yeah, Wolf and I talked about this earlier when they announced the sequel, and we said we don't really know, like if the maybe
The
actually
hope is
say,
there
you know
though.
what, let's go with the original plan, but too early to tell at this point. We don't even know if Dean is coming back at this point in time, but
Yeah,
I'm sure he would.
we just know it's been
From what
announced, so we'll have to wait and see.
and
The hope
from
is
what
there
I've
though.
heard, the stuff that we know is that it's been announced. It's coming out in 2 years. Dean said that he wants Kate Blanchett to return, but nothing is official. And the only other thing we know is that so far, from what I've heard, there are no final numbers for the weekend. But so far, from what I've heard, this is making money. So the second one is happening. We're most likely going to get the third. At this point, I'm going to say, you know what? Let's see what you got. Let's see where this is going. I might have my issues with this remake, but it's not terrible.
As someone who hasn't seen a single live action remake from Disney, except for Cruella, but that's not a remake, I'm not a Disney person, human. I haven't even seen the original Lion King. Why would I see the remake?
Fair
You
enough.
need to see the
I'm
original
going
Lion
to.
King because you're not
I'm going.
human, but that's another thing.
Hold on. I'm going to get so much hate for this. I did not see the original Aladdin, the original Little Mermaid, the original Mulan, the original Lion King, the original. What else got a remake?
Wolf
Uh,
Kicker.
Not because I don't like those films, because again, I did
So
not see them.
again,
I
just joking around.
but I was not a Disney kid when I was little, and I have no interest right now in seeing old Disney animations.
That's fair.
Just because, not that I have something against them.
We
I
get
still
it. We get it. What is
films,
the
yeah.
point?
This was my first remake,
Mhm.
and I had no preconceived um, issues with the idea. Let's say it like that. The way everyone on the internet, oh, this shouldn't exist. There's no point in a remake. Blah blah blah. Blah.
Yeah.
So I had none of that. I had no live action remake burnout that other people have. So for me, I thought it was a good film. Not perfect, but neither was the original. It was a good film on its own, except for that one scene, which, uh, you know, we talked about it a lot. There's no point in going back to it. It's um, not necessarily different enough, but it's enough to warrant its existence. So they did enough stuff with the live action medium to warrant its existence. Not necessarily that they added to the story plot points or something like that, which I heard Disney did. They did not ruin the original with this one, so it's faithful and respectful. And it would be weird if it wasn't, because Dean was the director of both. So,
I will
and
say
my
for my
final hold
end,
on, wait. My final takeaway is something that I've said about this, which I consider to be a hot topic at the moment. I do not think the animation is better than the live action, and I also do not think that the live action is better than the animation. Both films did things better than the other, and there isn't a superior version.
well, I'll disagree there. The original is still superior for a lot of reasons, in my opinion. But it doesn't mean that I still think it's pointless. I still think if you want to watch How to Train Your Dragon, watch the original. There's no reason to. But if you if you want to experience a more realistic take on it, if you want to see this come to life with actors, if you feel like this is something you would enjoy, you are not going to go wrong with it. It's definitely you will probably have fun comparing the two.
Mhm.
But if I had to choose, I am watching the original any day over this.
Yeah,
I choose
I
both.
would. That's fair.
I
Nothing wrong with that.
That's fair too,
again,
but that's fair too. I'm just saying that if I had to say this, I still think the original just can't be topped. It's one of the most technically perfect films out there to some degree, and the things that it does are done so freaking well. And the fact that I can look at the remake and say it misses something, it missed a crucial thing. It might not matter so much if I'm watching this with connecting it, but that's the issue. I can't not connect it. It's the same guy directing and writing. It's the same exact story. There's just no way I can't connect it. So to me, the original still reigns supreme. Not that I expected the remake to clench it or anything, but I will say, if you feel like you are going to enjoy what's being offered to you, or you're just curious, the remake isn't terrible. It's just doing a lot of stuff not as good. Take it for what it is.
That's fair.
I mean, it fulfilled my 3 wishes. Now I can say them. My first wish was that Valka would be mentioned more, which we've discussed. My second wish was that more dragons would appear in it, and they did. They put the Skrill and Rumblehorn in the film. And yeah, they're not full scenes focusing on those dragons, but they're still there. They're still more than just pages in a book. And 3, that they expanded the non-stoic, non-gobber adults. The world of Grunt.
So Wolf, what is your final takeaway? Because Tauriel,
I do agree with you a bit more. I am more partial to the animated version, to the original, but I think this has its place. I think this is fine. I think they've definitely made me a little bit interested in what they might do for the second film and the third film. I would love to see Dean do something wildly different, like, you know, Valka being the villain. We'll see though. We have no clue what may or may not happen and what comes up. But they both have their place. We could be far, far worse off with a, you know, How to Train Your Dragon live action remake that's as bad as the Lilo and Stitch one. But
oh
we
yeah,
weren't. So nice.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen the
I
original one for
as
Lilo and Stitch either
as
to add it
always.
to the list.
Fair enough.
what?
As
If
always,
I'm
Well,
going,
right?
wait, if I'm going to get, well, cancelled is a lot. If I'm going to get killed for this, at least go out with everything,
I
right?
mean, fair enough. As always, right? My hope here is this does well enough that we get more animated stuff too, right? That's always been my hope that, you know, hey, I'm fine with them doing this. I also would like them to do more animated stuff, whatever that might be. I don't know. So, if this gets us
so
more
that
animated
being
stuff,
said,
great. We'll see.
let's hope. Well, so I think that's it for this episode of the Berkcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What did you think about the remake? Are you objecting to it? Did you warm up to it? Did it satisfy the expectations you had for it? You can tell us all about it in the section below on Twitter, which is Berkcast with a big capital C, and on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team. Tauriel, where can people find you online?
On Twitter at Tauriel of Mirk, Mirk. And I don't want anyone to find me in real life because I will get killed for not watching Disney classics. I'm
So with
sorry.
that,
I'm sorry. I apologize. I just, nobody showed them to me.
You're
Okay?
fine. You're fine.
so with all that said, I was HC,
I was Wolf.
And I was Tauriel.
and we will see you all in the next episode. Take care.
Bye bye.